Hey everyone, welcome back to OneRoomOver Gaming. Okay, so last time I played this, I stopped right where Miss Smythe had asked me if I was dating Lizzie. She didn't say Lizzie, but she said a girl. She saw me with a girl and asked if we were dating. And so now I have to answer her. And I think that I have made my decision, and it's going to be maybe something like that. Miss Smythe, that's probably good for you. You need more relationships, but I have to ask, have the two of you been intimate? Oh, that's a little personal. How can you ask that? I'm not teasing you. This is a very serious question. You'd better not be leading up to giving me a lecture about safe sex or abstinence or anything. Oh, because that would be so terrible. God forbid someone be responsible in their life. So should I take that as a no? Yes. I mean, no. We haven't done anything like that. It's good to hear that you're at least expressing yourself. Koitek got back to me about erosipam, and it's still decades from viability. So we don't have a solid option for libido issues. What are you saying? Can we talk about something else? Anything else? Sorry to make you uncomfortable, John, but I do need to be concerned about your welfare in all respects. To that end, I need to ask one more question. Has the girl ever displayed any strange behavior, erratic tendencies? Are we gonna lie again? I could be dodgy and say what kind of behavior, but I'm actually just gonna go with a straight up yes. John's fears flared up again, and he very nearly talked about the threats Lizzie had made. Yet a memory of her smiling sweetly at him flashed through his mind, and he ended up saying nothing. So my decision didn't even matter. Is that a no? She's basically normal as I am. That's not much of a vote of confidence, but I know what you meant. I'm not being rude, John. This is important. You see, I looked up that girl's records, and to my surprise, I actually knew her mother. You knew Lizzie's mother? Yes, Abby Doss took part in one of our early clinical trials. She was one of the women who had to be removed from the study when we learned that they had lied about being pregnant at the time. Oh. Plus, I thought she displayed addictive tendencies. I understand she began abusing prescription painkillers later in life, too. That poor girl probably had a hard childhood. So anyway, I just hope that the girl turned out all right. Any drugs taken while someone is in utero can have permanent long-term impacts, so I'm glad the girl turned out normal. Moving on, you seem so much better. I assume the emotional grayness took care of itself? Yeah, of course. Miss Smythe seemed so positive he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth, because despite the general improvement in his life, that aspect of it had not. Lizzie was a single spot of color in his world, but the rest was even grayer than before. The rest of their session passed in a gray blur. When it was over, John was in a strange mood. He felt a little better, but not much. Usually after a therapy session, he floated in an empty tranquility, but now his mind was racing. He impatiently sat through his next class, but his mind was on what Miss Smythe had said about Lizzie's mother. Could that be part of the reason for her instability? When he had a free period, John headed straight to the library and tried to look up past incidents. It was hard to find information on Koitek's older trials, but when he eventually gave in and looked at the microfilm, he actually found some relevant articles. He knew that Lizzie had been born in 1972. What year is it? So he was able to skim back to around the time she had been born. He actually found the birth announcement in the local paper easily, but for the rest he was left searching aimlessly through shitty local articles. And then all at once, it was easy. There was a series of articles that took his research from a boring whim to something that had him on the edge of his seat. Apparently, before it was called Koitek, the company had been called PharmaVax. They rebranded after a series of drug recalls that ruined their reputation. John sat back, unable to read any further. Was that really the explanation? It felt so cheap. It was easy to presume that Lizzie's mother had been involved in one of the PharmaVax trials, and her unborn child must have suffered the consequences. Could that really have unbalanced Lizzie this way? If so, that meant that this was no phase she was going through. If her early development had been affected, she was probably this way for life. I double-clicked and I missed a whole sentence. Sorry. So we're just going to have to assume that John said something about something. It was too much like the scorn that had been heaped on him for his depression. Whatever her problems, Lizzie was a person who deserved respect. Help, but respect before anything else. Depression quickly followed on the heels of his anger. Unable to deal with any more of these thoughts, John just walked out with Ethan replacing the microfilm. He drifted through the rest of the day, still stewing over what he'd learned. At times, he could almost convince himself that this was a good thing. If drugs had unbalanced Lizzie, maybe they could balance her again. He could almost imagine them together, helping each other, maybe even getting married. When she passed him in the hallway, her eyes lit up, not in mere elation, but with a burning intensity. And in that moment, John was sure that Lizzie couldn't be cured. The question was, did he want her to be? I could or couldn't. I thought it said couldn't, but maybe it was could. I think it was could be cured, and the question is, did he want her to be? Several days later, as they were leaving school, Lizzie caught up with him, an odd look on her face. John, I'm so happy. Really? I spent so long just watching you, imagining what it would be like to say hello, to hear you say my name, for you to look at me. That we can actually talk like this, it's a dream, a wonderful dream I never want to end. I'm happy I met you too, Lizzie. This past week has been fun. Say, how is the Yandequil working out for you? No unpleasant side effects? Oh god, I'm worried that I'm going to click and she's going to say that she stopped taking it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for giving it to me. Well, I hope we can find some more once this dose runs out. Some drugs you can renew week to week, but I don't know about this one. It could be a pain. Oh no, I wouldn't want you to go to any trouble for me. But it's helping, right? I want you to be able to have more if you want it. That's so sweet, but it's not necessary. It helped us get closer together, didn't it? That's enough. No, Lizzie. No. It's not a good idea to stop taking medication. But John, we've been dating since you accepted my confession, but we've only done normal things. I love being with you every single moment, but can we do something more romantic? They might as well. People already thought of them as dating, and she seemed so sweet for so long. What was the worst that could happen? Please. We have a lot of options, considering that we have all next week off. But we don't have to wait that long. How about we plan something for Friday night? I don't have a car to pick you up, but I can take you to a nice restaurant. Ah, yes. Good, then it's a plan. Oh, it's a date. Friday. She would still have a day or two of medication left on Friday. John figured she would stay stable. Maybe the date would leave her happy enough that she'd change her mind about staying on her meds. No matter what mistakes her mother made, maybe Lizzie could be stable with the right treatment. John really thought this could work out between them. I think so too. Wow, John, this place is so nice. The nice places they let high school kids... The nicest places to let high school kids in with only a few days for reservation. Anyway, when I asked for a romantic place, I never dreamed it would be this romantic. I'm not dressed up enough for this. This is the kind of place where you take someone to propose. Just so it's clear, I'm not going to propose. Well, remember that this is a good place for it. John could only hope that the place would be nice. All he knew about it was that his parents said it was nice back when they were together. They entered, and Lizzie was delighted by everything. The decor, the menu, the lighting, the food. Or maybe she was really just delighted with one thing, the event itself. Fortunately, the staff seemed to find her adorable instead of disturbing, so John found himself relaxing. Even when they were just chatting idly, Lizzie was so nice to be around. Midway through the meal, he realized that Lizzie was resting her hand on the table. She wasn't necessarily inviting it, but if he stretched, he thought he could put his hand on top of hers. Yep. Lizzie's eyes went wide when he touched her, for a moment just staring as if she couldn't believe it. But after a moment she gave him a brilliant smile and laced her fingers through his. Okay, he hadn't meant to do that, but John decided he could just awkwardly hold her hand while they ate. Yeah, it's gonna be tough eating with one hand, but you'll get through it. That certainly seemed to be Lizzie's intention. She actually wasn't getting a lot eaten since she didn't talk with her mouth full and listened rapidly whenever he talked, but at least she seemed to be having fun. After a while, Lizzie patted at her mouth with a napkin and sighed in satisfaction. She didn't let go of his hand, though. That was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it's all really good. Not the food, the date. Oh, but I've made you talk so much. You haven't gotten to eat very much. That's okay, No, I'll be quiet and watch while you eat. So, Lizzie, how about you tell me where you live? Oh, it isn't too special, just a house. Do you live with someone? No, not your parents, but some other relative? No, it's just me. Abby inherited the house, I think, and she didn't manage to sell it off when things got bad. I don't know if I've heard who Abby was before. Oh, I didn't! Abby? My mother, she was an awful woman. I don't want to talk about her. Okay. It's a nice enough house, I suppose. Abby wrecked a lot of it, but I've been able to repair it with money from James. Probably her father. Your father? I guess, but he never cared enough to meet me. Abby always complained about him, and the checks don't always come. But I don't want to talk about that. It's all horrible, isn't it? People who can't even pretend to be in love just tear into each other. That's not what I want. Not at all. When I fell in love with you, I knew it would last forever. Wouldn't it be nice for us to get a house together? Maybe even build one? Oh, so many choices. I can't decide. But I want it to be something we choose together, not something we inherit. Someplace where we want to live together, forever. Maybe a big house. Big enough that it can have lots of nice windows, but also rooms inside where no one can see us. And maybe a fountain. Lizzie giggled and squirmed in her seat as if she couldn't contain herself. Her fingers gripped so tightly that it almost hurt. But now I'm just saying things. None of those things really matter. The only thing in our house that I'll care about is you. It was the longest he had yet gotten her to talk about herself or her goals, and while it was still pretty focused on him, he didn't mind hearing the details. That's a very nice image, Lizzie. Oh, I'm glad you think so. And you finished your food. This has been wonderful, but can we go now? Can we? Why do you want to leave so bad? Only slightly worrying about what she was thinking, John paid the bill, trying not to wince, and then they left the restaurant. They got onto the bus, and Lizzie never let go of his hand the entire time. He began to wonder when she was actually going to let go. And that... I'm sorry, I read those words out of order, but same effect. And that when she leaned her head against his shoulder. This feels so nice. Yes, it does. Really? You enjoyed tonight? I did. It's not that often that I hear you talk about things you want, other than, me. I felt ridiculous to say that, like some kind of boast, and a second later he realized that it might just be exacerbating her problem, or at least making light of it. But Lizzie just considered his words thoughtfully, then gave a slow nod. I've always wanted to know everything about you, John, and I'm glad you want to know about me. John, would you like me less if I stopped taking the medicine? Shit, what was he supposed to say to that? John desperately racked his brain for a good answer. I like you, Lizzie. I like the person you really are. Is the person you are now the person you really are? What do you mean? I mean, when I get depressed, I don't feel like myself. Medicine might change me, but it's just to change me back to myself. But it's not who you naturally are. Does that matter? I mean, we get to choose who we are. Otherwise, we're not really people, just animals. So who are you, Lizzie? You seem like a nice person now that I've gotten to know you. Is this not who you want to be? Did you feel better before taking the medicine? But you liked me tonight. Tonight was wonderful, but I'm not suggesting I didn't like you before. Silly John, don't worry about it. I love you no matter what. I'm not worried about that. Now, would you like to see my house? John froze, not sure how to take the question. Then again, Lizzie had already seen his house. Maybe she just wanted to open up. He said he'd like to hear her talk about herself, after all. If she was actually offering to let him into her life a little more, it would be stupid of him to turn it down. Sure, Lizzie, I'd love to see it. Oh, I'm sure you will, absolutely sure. He'd planned to take her to her stop, just to be gentlemanly, but now John found himself getting off at the same place. Lizzie eagerly set off from the bus stop, looking back to make sure that he was following. In the end, she led him to a small house. It was a cozy little thing, much warmer and more pleasant than he'd expected. Here it is! Huh, it's cozy. You don't need to flatter my house, silly. All that matters is that we'll be there. She led him inside and showed him around. Though it was a very strange and erratic tour, he wondered if this was the first time she'd ever showed someone the inside of her home. Well, I'm sure it is, you know. Other than her mother and father, I don't really think she's had a lot of interaction with other people. The inside of the house was less cozy than the outside, not because of the house itself, because of how bare it was. A few rooms looked as though they'd been used, but the rest looked like they were out of a catalog. It mimicked a house, but it didn't look like a place where anyone lived. The only thing that didn't match the catalog image was a heavy metal door off a side hallway. Lizzie didn't make the slightest reference to it, or even seem to notice it existed. This picture. Is that your mother? Oh, that. I forgot I even had that. Lizzie didn't seem to care, but John was curious enough to pick up the frame and look closer. He was surprised to find his hand immediately coated in dust. This had to be years of dust. How could Lizzie have lived here for so long and never even disturbed a picture sitting on a table like this? In any case, he could see where Lizzie got her good looks from, but other than that, she and her mother didn't look very much alike. There was something in Lizzie's eyes and posture that was just lacking in her mother. She was on a beach with some man. Neither of them looked like they were enjoying themselves. Maybe he was imagining things, but he could practically see the growing enmity between them. Absurdly, his mood began to decline. It was just a random relationship from people he didn't know. It had nothing to do with him, yet the idea of people producing a child from a relationship they obviously cared so little about sent him into a spiral. John? John, you shouldn't be sad. Our house wouldn't have anything like this in it. No, it was just, Don't worry, I want to be around you every second of the day forever, but I know that wouldn't work when we grow up. I can get a job, I'm good at lots of things. It will be sad being apart, but we can call each other at work and send each other things, and when we get home and see each other after so long, it will feel so good. So I'm going to stop for a second. I'm not stopping for the whole thing just yet, but I just wanted to say, since we've started this, John and Lizzie's moods have both improved. John's has gotten better because he's still taking his meds and seeing his therapist, but he's got a bright spot in his life, which helps him, I think. And then Lizzie's opening up, and I think just being around somebody who can kind of understand a little bit of what she's going through is a good thing. But like when we first saw Lizzie, and I mean like the first real interaction that John had with her, it seemed pretty focused on John, and like there was almost nothing else entirely. Like the fact that they were on a rooftop, they could have been on frickin' Mars, I'm pretty sure, and she wouldn't have even noticed. But like now, like they're both thinking of the future. They're both thinking of other events around. You know, they're kind of planning, and like Lizzie's actually saying stuff about how they could be apart. So it's kind of like evolving. Like at first, it just seemed like she wouldn't let him. I mean, she followed him. She stared out at him through his window, for crying out loud. But now she's saying, you know, like when we're apart and stuff like that. So I think the medicine's helping, and I think it's just getting generally better. But it's just kind of cool to see. It's cool to see them getting better. And like when the classmates showed up and John had to confront them, like I know it took a lot out of him, but again, it was just really cool to see him, like even though he was full of self-doubts and worry, it was cool to see him pull himself together for that little bit of time and just be able to be like, you know what, you guys suck, and just, you know, why don't you go hang out with each other and leave us the hell alone, you big batch of losers. So yeah, I just wanted to point out that I'm happy that they're getting better, that they're doing better. So yeah, that's good. Okay, anyhow, back to it. Her picture of the future actually sounded nice, lifted a little of the cloud in his head, but he couldn't find a way to put that into words, so he said nothing. Undeterred, Lizzie encouraged him into the living room and pushed him down on the large couch. It hadn't seen much use, but it was free from dust and gloriously soft. You stay here, okay? Give me a moment to change out of this. John swallowed and stayed where he was. He didn't have a lot of experience, but he'd heard his friends talk about their exploits. He thought it was a lot of lies, but was there something to what they said? If Lizzie really came out wearing lingerie or something, something else crazy. He didn't know what he would do. He honestly didn't. Part of him that had been asleep for a long time liked that idea, fantasized about what might happen. Another part of him was incredibly nervous to even consider the idea of being closer to her. And that is legitimately everybody. He couldn't keep sitting there. His nerves would destroy him. Instead, John got up and began to look around the house more carefully. The dustiest part of the house seemed to have remnants of Lizzie's mother. At least he didn't think Lizzie would be into cheap little glass figurines. Opening one of the rooms, he discovered that it was an unused bedroom. He was about to go when he spotted another picture frame sitting beside the bed. This one featured Lizzie as a child, sitting on her mother's lap. It struck him so strongly that he immediately went to look at it more carefully, not caring that his hand got even dustier. Oh boy, I just had an idea for, like, a twist, and, I'm a little nervous. It doesn't matter. We're just gonna see where it goes, but I hope it doesn't go where my brain just went. Lizzie's mother was glowing and obviously proud of her daughter, but Lizzie ignored her entirely. No, not just ignored her. There was a flat emptiness to her eyes, as if they weren't even related. It didn't seem to stop her mother in the picture, but the distance between them was agonizing. Why would anyone keep a picture like that, much less frame it? John stared at it a little while longer, then set it down and left the room. What could have happened to give Lizzie those eyes? Was she born that way to do her mother's mistakes? Or had her mother driven that wedge between them? I don't like this ominous music. It makes me nervous. Her mother had looked kind in the picture, but John knew all too well that the worst parents could try to act like the most loving. When Lizzie had spoken of her mother earlier, her terms had been negative. He wondered briefly if there could have been abuse of some kind. It was a painful thought, but maybe it would explain Lizzie's desperation for love. Or maybe he was making up bullshit. He hated it when people made up sob stories about his condition, after all. John checked the next door, but it was locked or jammed, so instead he ambled back to the living room. Lizzie was probably almost ready. He wanted to be waiting for her when she was done. She finally emerged, wearing similar clothes that looked slightly more comfortable. John wasn't sure if he was relieved or disappointed. It wasn't lingerie, but he didn't mind seeing her dressed casually either. Lizzie smiled at his expression and came to sit beside him on the couch. I wish I could have worn a dress for our date, but I like this better. Dresses are nice, but they're uncomfortable, you know? I don't think John's ever worn a dress, so he probably doesn't know, but I actually don't. I'm just being silly. They are really uncomfortable, though. I like it when you look at me, whether I'm trying to be beautiful or not. It makes me happy. She slid closer to him, apparently unaware of how much her body was touching his. No, she was probably even more than aware than he was. You make me happy. I'm glad I'm with you too, Lizzie. Aw, I'm so glad to hear you say that. John, I want you to stay here tonight. You mean, with me? Together. As the night took a sharp turn, John did his best not to panic. He had not thought the date would actually go there, much less in an obsessive way. But did he have to panic? Lizzie was usually this obsessive, and she'd brought it up in a mostly stable way. Besides, they were dating. It wouldn't be strange for them to sleep together, and yet the look in her eyes... John? Now, I'm a little confused because I don't know if, like, by sleep with, they're implying, like, sexual intimacy, or, like, if she's just gonna, like, go to her room and he's gonna sleep, like, on the floor or on the couch or something like that. But I'm a little hesitant to just go full bore into just, like, hell yeah, let's go, because I don't know what could happen with it. I mean, what would you guys do? I just don't know with this one, because I'm kind of, oh man, I shouldn't make assumptions. And last time I picked something, it didn't even turn out the way that I picked it. Oh man. I'm just gonna have to take the middle of the road on this one. Lizzie, I want to be with you too, but now just isn't the right time. What's wrong with the time? We're not Well, I'm not in a good place right now. I want to get my head straight. I'm afraid that my depression would get the better of me. I wouldn't be able to really be with you, and I want our first time to be right. I hope you're not upset. Honestly, I want to keep dating you. That's okay. I understand. But I still don't want you to go. Will you stay a little longer? So I'm assuming that, yes, that would have led to actual relationship stuff. You won't try to force anything? I understand. It's not the right time for that now. Then I've had a nice time so far. I suppose I can stay a little longer. Here, let me get you some tea. He was left sitting awkwardly by himself, wondering if he was completely insane. Did he seriously just turn down sex with a girl like Lizzie? John wasn't even sure that he'd done the right thing. She might be a little unstable, but she was completely in control of herself. It wasn't like there would have been anything wrong with it, or so he told himself. But the idea still made part of him deeply uneasy. He wasn't sure why, but he hoped the feeling wouldn't last long. Maybe tea would calm his nerves. Here you go, John. I brewed a cup for each of us. Thank you. It was just a little sweet, so he took another sip. John usually didn't enjoy tea, but right now the mild taste was exactly what he needed. I'm glad you took this so well, if that makes sense. Of course, John. I'd want us to be together forever and ever. I wouldn't want to force anything on you before everything is ready. Well, thank you, I think. Later? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I just want this to work out, too. Yes, I understand. I understand that people have hurt you. You're too kind for this world. You need my help. Oh, what does that mean? That's kind of you. I'm glad to have you with me. Depression isn't something that's cured, you know? It stays with you. You learn to deal with it. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling so... Wait, Lizzie, did you put something in my tea? Please say no. Oh, God, she did. Oh, it's okay, John. Relax. I'll take care of you. Lizzie, no, don't. His vision faded out and his body went slack. The last thing he felt before he slipped away entirely was Lizzie drawing his head down to rest on her lap. Oh, God, I should have just clicked yes. Stupid of me. Oh, boy. I don't want to... John woke with a feeling of something tight on his wrists. Oh, jeez! At first he thought he might be tangled in the sheets, but when he tried to move his hands, they were stuck. The memories returned in a bitterly cold flood. Lizzie must have drugged the tea and brought him wherever this was. Oh, God, that's the metal door, isn't it? Oh, man. His blurry vision slowly returned, and he could make out a rough basement. He made out a basement, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. A rough basement around him. He could just see a heavy metal door at the top set of the stairs. And for anyone who's got really blurry vision, you don't know what those are. But for anyone who's got some at least decent vision, that's you know what those are. It looked as though there were shelves and tools around the walls, but he couldn't pay attention to those. Now, not with Lizzie standing in front of him, eyes fixed on his face. I'm glad you're awake now. Are you feeling okay? I'm not, honestly. I'm not feeling okay at all. I'm 100% the opposite of anything that okay ever touched. Okay, you've... I'm sorry, John, I really am, but I don't have a choice. You're so kind, too kind. I wish you could understand how much I need you. I have to make you understand. Oh, no. What are you gonna do to me? Don't be afraid, John. Everything is gonna be alright. I don't feel like I can trust that statement. I'm completely empty. There's nothing inside me. There's never been anything inside me. The emptiness craves something. Oh, this is good information. This is the information I want right now. I didn't understand what I needed for years and years. Eventually, I realized that I needed a person, a specific person. What? Whatever. I was just gonna say, what are you gonna do to me? But I guess to find out, I just have to keep going down this rabbit hole. But I didn't know who. Occasionally there would be a flicker of feeling. I'd watched someone for a while, but they were never what I needed. Nothing actually mattered. Until I met you. Lizzie, Hush! Let me finish. For so long I could barely even bear to look at you. The feelings were too intense, and then I couldn't bring myself to talk to you. I was afraid it would all just disappear. But the feelings didn't go away. They got stronger. You were made for me, John. I need you to understand that. I love you. I love you. I love you, 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 I love you. So much love. Lizzie, I want to feel that way. I want you to feel that way about me, but not like this. You're not well. Don't just say that. Yeah, let's piss her off. We're already trapped. Let's make her mad. You don't mean that, John. John doesn't mean that. I want to be different. Be a girl you could like easily. I tried. But I'm not. I'm empty. I'm empty until you finally fill that emptiness. Kidnapping and raping me isn't going to get you what you want, Lizzie. Oh, no, no. I would never do that to you. You were right before. It's too early for us to do that. Our first time, I wanted to be perfect. Perfect in every way. Oh. Dude, this deals with some mature shit. Then why am I tied to a chair? You're sick too, John. You don't understand how much I love you. I have to make you understand. What are you gonna do? Stay here. Try to get comfortable. You have days and days to start to understand. I have days. Days and days. John recalled that they were going into a full week of vacation. That meant she could keep him here a full 9 days before they had to return to school. That was no accident. Lizzie might be unstable, but her mind was disturbingly clear. She'd planned this maybe even before asking him out on the date. His heart ached. John couldn't understand the way her mind worked, but she was obviously in great pain. In fact, the way she had spoken, it almost reminded him of his own depression. That brought to mind an old lesson, one he'd learned with the therapist before Miss Smythe. His depression explained why he lashed out at those close to him, but it didn't excuse it. The people around him could choose to suffer through it voluntarily, but that was their decision. Was this something he could help Lizzie get through? Did he want to? As he looked around the basement, he saw a lot of heavy tools. Some of the hammers and knives looked as if they'd been used. John slumped against the ropes, binding him to his chair, and just wept. He wasn't sure how long the release of motion continued, but when it was over, John felt my reading comprehension just shot through the floor. Let's try this sentence one more time. John felt as though his mind had been purged. His current situation might be pretty bad, but he still had options. He could figure out something, assuming he figured out what he even wanted to do. The sane thing to do would be to find a way to escape, contact the police, or maybe it would be safer to convince Lizzie to calm down, take more medication, not hurt him. John, we're going to have ever so much time together. Aren't you excited? Oh, that's in my excitement. Those are my 3 dots of happiness. He needed to say something, turn the situation around, but it was just so hard to focus. Okay, I'm pretty sure that I might get an option right after this, and I've let this go for quite a while, but I definitely wanted to give you guys a lot of I didn't want to leave you hanging. You know, I wanted to really get into something so that you guys would be a little more entertained. But yeah, I am gonna have to cut it right here because I'm not sure how much longer this goes, so I think there's at least one more episode of this. But yeah, this went from 0 to 60 so fast. Boy, I did not see that coming at all, to be honest. I thought that maybe I was just going to say, like, hey, let's wait, and I was going to hang around for a bit longer and then leave, but, you know, that's why I don't make plans. Alright, so that's all for now, guys. I'm sorry to leave you like this, but I got to cut it. So, thank you guys for coming back to One Room Over Gaming, and I will finish this up really soon. I want to see what happens. So yeah, thank you guys for coming back, and I really appreciate it, and I appreciate every one of you. And until then, you know, you guys always know where you can find me. I'll just be One Room Over. So until next time, you guys take care of yourself. Happy gaming, and I will see you all very soon. Okay, thanks. All right, I'll see you guys.